Hello, it is today. What is today? July 23rd, 2023. This is Man Coverage. Knoxville Nate, James Bonneville. It has been a while, James. How are you doing today, sir?
Well, because of NCAA issues, we had to have our dark periods. So,
Yeah. There was no recruiting, no contact. We had to go dead with the rest of the NCAA, but there still has been stuff going on. As we know, college football never stops, and that is why we always talk about it. It's the greatest sport in the world, in my opinion, and the world keeps spinning in the world of college football, and that's why we're here to talk about it. I've missed everybody. I've missed you, James. I've missed talking about college football. We're not that far from the season. It's crazy to think about, but we're a couple of weeks, 4 or 5 weeks away from football kicking off. Camp is about to get kicked off, as we're going to talk about here in a minute. But the biggest news obviously was happened while we were away, so we didn't really get a chance to weigh in on it. But I do want to talk about it, and that's obviously what went down at Northwestern. Just in case anybody lives on the moon. Some players that left the program, or players that were, graduated from the program, came back and guess blew the whistle on some hazing, as it were, regarding, Coach Fitzgerald and his staff. Initially, they came out and dropped the story about this hazing being reported. The president of the university came out with a agreed upon 2-week punishment. But we all know the world that we live in now. The stories gain traction, and then bam, look out. It just goes crazy, and things build upon themselves, and there's really no going back. And once the story started to build and some of the details came out, I think they realized they weren't going to be able to sweep this under the rug, and then they had to act like they were stern, and then they of course fired Coach Fitzgerald, who's been there, coach there for 20 plus years, 2 decades, played there, won a Rose Bowl there, really is the epitome of Northwestern football. What if what they've been reported is 100% true? It's not a good look. Okay. I mean, you don't really need those things in your program. You can have the kids carry, the freshmen carry the pads. You can have the freshmen, have to, bring in all the equipment, the dummies, the sleds, whatever. You want to make life a little bit harder on the freshmen than you do the seniors, but there's no real place, in my opinion, for, what's been reported. And I'm not even going to talk about it because it's disgusting. But my big problem is you fire Coach Fitzgerald, but you leave the rest of the staff. And in my opinion, the rest of the staff is just as culpable, if not more. A lot of those guys are a lot closer with the players, the position coaches, some of the guys that are, in the locker room more than the head coach. I mean, the head coach has to manage the whole program, and I understand it stops and starts with him. But how can you fire the head coach and then promote some of these other coaches, like the guy that's now the interim coach? You're promoting him and leaving the rest of these guys, yet you're firing Coach Fitzgerald. James, I want to get your thoughts on, what you thought about when you first heard all this, what your feelings are about, everything that went on with the Northwestern football program the last few weeks.
I didn't know really what to think when it hit the news wire. I thought the 2-week thing was just going to be, let's be honest, the coaches are all usually on vacation before practice begins anyway. So, I mean, let's be honest, it was a glorified vacation. He's just not going to get paid for it. And then when they came back and turned around and let him go, I was shocked by that. And mostly because, I mean, you think of Northwestern University, you think of Pat Fitzgerald. I mean, a statistic I heard, which just blew me away. If you include his playing, assistant coaching career, and his coaching career, he has spent 26 of the last 30 years in Evanston, Illinois. I mean, after him, who would be the next person you think of when you think of Northwestern? I mean,
Darnell Autry.
Yeah, Dwayne. I mean, there's like one, and then putting somebody at 2 makes it look like it's somewhat close. It should start at 1, and the next person should be at 100. And I mean, look at all the changes that you've seen to that program. I mean, granted, Randy Walker really started. I mean, not Randy Walker. Barnett was the one.
Gary Barnett.
Gary Barnett really kicked that one off. Randy Walker continued that process. Then after his passing, you look at what Fitzgerald did to come in and really stabilize that program after his passing, and really took it to a whole new level. I mean, you look at that athletic facility, their practice facility, it is second to none, right on Lake Michigan. And there was talk that 2 major donors were going to build a new football stadium to place Ryan Field. Now, if you've never been to Ryan Field, holy crap, it's a shit show. I mean, people forget they didn't have lights until the mid 90s to play night games. They didn't have lights. I mean, next thing you're going to tell me is the bathroom just had troughs. That's it. I mean, what Pat Fitzgerald has done as a player, as an assistant coach, as a head coach, to really bolster that program is unheard of. And honestly, I mean, somebody big is going to go get that job because it's the Big Ten, and they're going to pay a lot of money to have somebody there. I mean, I've got a list of people in my head, but it's just going to be weird to see a day where Pat Fitzgerald's not wearing purple on the sidelines.
Yeah, and very, very weird. My question to you is, let's tackle the tough question. I mean, do you think that this guy should have been fired? Do you think that it's fair what happened? Do you think if we're going to get into it, there's legal ramifications here.
Yeah.
There's financial ramifications. I believe, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that he just signed an extension not too long ago.
Yeah.
Where Pat Fitzgerald his contract value was over almost $60 million.
Yeah.
As far as what the university still owed him. So, if he's fired with cause, they can get out of paying him that, unless they can prove that he had direct knowledge of what was going on, that he was culpable. They're going to be paying Pat Fitzgerald $60 million to go away.
Yeah.
And it's not like a situation where it's a buyout and, the program was in a horrible place and they had to fire him. This is, obviously a different story. What do you think about, do you think it was a warranted firing? And do you think that they are going to have to pay him the remainder of his contract? And also, what does this do to the state of the Northwestern program? And also, they're about to redo that stadium. They're about to put hundreds of millions of dollars into completely rebuilding this place. What happens with that?
I think the athletic director's got his work cut out for him. At the end of the day, when you're getting paid that much money, they're expecting have control over every aspect of that program. Did he have direct knowledge of it? I don't know. I really don't. But at the end of the day, they're going to because there's going to be lawsuits popping up. I've heard Ben Crump is representing some of the players in the lawsuits. And there's another attorney too, as well, that did Dominion lawsuits that's jumping in too as well. That is going to be part of this. I mean, they're going to put culpability on Fitzgerald's back on this one. The question you brought up before is why not fire the assistants? And I agree with you. The problem is, at the end of the day, you're 3 weeks away from camp starting. Someone's got to coach. I
understand, but if Fitzgerald is culpable for this, if he's responsible for this, so is his goddamn staff. And I'm sorry. I'm just saying that you can't just be like, oh, Coach Fitzgerald's gone, everything's fine now. That's not how it works. If this was really an issue where a guy who's been there for 30 years needed to be fired, then the staff need to be fired too. I don't care if you have to, suspend the season. I don't care if you have to bring in all new people. I don't really care, but you can't just get rid of one guy and pretend like the problem is solved.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this is a problem that's going to continue on. And honestly, I just look at, I mean, Northwestern over the last 3 years has just not been good since the COVID season, or last 2 seasons. I mean, they're just not a good football team right now. And part of it has to deal with the transfer portal as a whole. I mean, they already have higher academic standards than most schools in the country. And now you're making it easier for players to leave the program. I mean, heck, they have a 4-star freshman, Nigel Glover, out of Clayton, Ohio, who has already put himself in for the transfer portal. Safety that could play linebacker at the next level. I mean, I could easily see him being on a different roster come a week from now. So
yeah, I've got to believe that there's going to be more
yeah,
kids that leave.
agreed.
Honestly, I think there'll be additional folks taking off, which I don't blame them. If they came here and were recruited by Coach Fitz, and that was one of the main reasons that they're here, then I understand them leaving. I mean, that's why the portal is there.
Yeah.
But this season's already, let's be honest, it's going to be a wash. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, completely.
They're not going to win the Big Ten West, even though the Big Ten West sucks. They're really going to have trouble, competing in there.
But even
anyway.
Before this, did you expect Northwestern to win the Big Ten West?
That's my point. That was my point. That's what I'm saying. Like, they weren't going to win the West to begin with. Just the way that their program works, they can't win the Big Ten every year. The fact that they can win it at all is just amazing. But the way he does it is he gets players that are not recruited by some other schools. He brings them in, and Fitzgerald develops them, him and his staff. And then sometimes they're able to compete because they have good coaching staff. They have players that are determined, that have been coached up and fit their system. But let's be honest, they weren't going to win this year. This wasn't one of those years where they had a bunch of guys. They had Newsome a couple of years ago. They got drafted by the Browns. Rashawn Slater, who was a very high draft pick by the Chargers and has played well in the NFL. They have guys that do have the talent to play at the next level sometimes, but more or less, they're built upon kids that are not 5 stars. But that he brings in.
You look at the recruiting under Walker and Barnett. I mean, they were getting 2- and 3-star kids. I mean, Northwestern was getting 5 stars. I mean, Peter Skronsky was a 5-star.
Yeah, I didn't even mention him.
I mean, he elevated recruiting. I mean, 4 stars. He didn't get a lot of them, but for Northwestern, that's amazing. That's freaking amazing.
It is, and I just think that this season's already going to be a disaster, and so I don't really understand. That's what bothers me and kind of throws me off. I don't understand getting rid of Fitz and leaving the rest of the staff in place when if he's culpable. In my opinion, they're culpable. And
who would you hire next?
I mean, to me is the $1 million question. Are they going to open up their pocketbooks and go and bring in a big name? I just think they're going to have trouble selling this to the board now. Hey, we just lost this guy that's been here for 30 years. We need $8 million a year, $6 million a year to bring in a big name. I just don't think it's going to be a big name like you're thinking. I think it's probably going to be maybe an up and comer. Maybe a guy with a little less clout that's well known as being a solid coach. I'm not 100% sure right now who that is.
I don't think it's going to be I think it's going to be somebody from outside the Northwestern family, and I've got some names that could be interesting. The 2 off the top of my head that I think are really intriguing are Matt Campbell at Iowa State, because look at what he's done in Ames. I mean, there's no airport in Ames, and he's getting 4-star talent to Ames. He's making them competitive. Yeah, were they bad last year? But look at how many 1-score games they lost, and look at how much they lost offensively from the year before. They lost Purdy, they lost Hall, they lost Kohler. I mean, sure, Hutchinson was still there. I guarantee you Iowa State's going to be way better in the Big 12 this year. Another name, Bronco Mendenhall. I mean, the guy won at Virginia. The guy won at BYU. This just seems like a perfect fit for him to come in. Other names, Sean Lewis was at Kent State, now the OC at Colorado. Jeff Monken, Jim Leonard, or even Tommy Reese down at Alabama. I mean, I could see one of those guys. I mean, yeah, are you going to steal from another Power 5 school? Probably not. But can you get I could say an SEC or a Big Ten school? Probably not. But could they get another Power 5 school from another conference? Yeah. I mean, a name that I keep liking more and more is Jonathan Smith. If you could get him out of freaking Corvallis, because what he's built there is amazing.
Yeah, no, he has certainly done a great job there. It's going to be interesting to see, when do they start this search? What kind of coach are they going to go after? I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm very, very confused and interested about this coaching search, because there's some uproar going on right now as far as the program, whether or not the stadium renovations continue, whether or not they want to dump millions of dollars into a new coach. I just think there's got to be a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
I think the staff is going to, maybe they let them stay on this year as we've discussed, but they're going to get rid of everybody, I think, coming up and move forward with a clean slate, as you were. But
I mean, Jim Phillips, the current ACC commissioner, his job before this was the AD at Northwestern. Don't kid yourself. He's going to be subpoenaed.
Yeah.
He's going to be brought in.
Yeah. Well, this going to be a huge. I mean, you mentioned about some of the players hiring attorneys. Well, Fitzgerald's got some cash, and he hired one of the biggest lawyers in the state of Illinois, one of the biggest, Chicago trial lawyers who's going to represent him, because he's going to go after his cash.
Yeah.
And if he feels like he didn't do anything wrong, and he can prove that, he may get it. So we'll see. And it's going to come down to who's got the best lawyers, which is what it comes down to a lot of the time. But I feel like I'm saddened a little bit, to be honest with you. I'm saddened because this guy has been a great coach. He's built a program where there shouldn't be sometimes, and some mentions a great program. And, from my dealings, I don't know Coach Fitzgerald personally very well. I've met him a few times, but I have some friends, a good friend of mine who worked there for several years on the staff. And I've never heard a bad thing about him, to be honest.
Stand up is the one thing I keep hearing about him over and over again. It's just such a stand-up individual. And whoever it is that's got to take over his shoes, those are big shoes to fill. And don't kid yourself. Do you think this is the end of Pat Fitzgerald? Hell no.
No,
he's going to coach again.
He'll get another job. I think he'll get another job. I don't think he'll get a job next year.
No.
But I think he'll be a head coach again. He's not an old guy.
No.
He'll be back on the sidelines in the next 3 to 4 years, in my opinion, as a head coach, in my opinion. I mean, he may take a coordinator job first, just to get back in front of the cameras and kind of soften his entrance. But I think he'll be a head coach again before too long. So, but with that, they're going to have to get back at it, because, as we just mentioned, fall camp is starting. Teams are going to, kids are going to start reporting to camp. And, there's several things that we're going to need to keep our eyes on as fall camp begins, because there's an abundance of schools, probably more than I can recall in recent history, where the big name schools still don't have their quarterback situation settled. They don't have a guy yet. And, I'm saying this happens every year, where there's guys out, guys come in, but usually we know who the Bama quarterback is going to be. We know who the Georgia quarterback is probably going to be, the Ohio State. Most of the time we do. Right now we do not. And that's where I want to start, is with Alabama. Jalen Milroe got some playing time last year. Ty Simpson was a freshman, a redshirt freshman, or he's a redshirt freshman now. Last year he was a true freshman and basically sat out. They brought in Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame, who started the season as the starter at Notre Dame last year. James, who do you feel like is going to win this job? What do you think about the culmination of the group of quarterbacks at Bama right now?
Based off what we saw at the spring game, that was a shit show.
Yeah, it didn't look good.
Now, if this is traditional Nick Saban, I think you're going to see. Remember that game in Dallas when they played USC and they rolled out like every quarter or every couple drives, they threw a new quarterback out there. This was during Jalen Hurts. Barnett was there. There was another quarterback there too as well. Where when Jalen was there, he kind of took it to the next level and really secured that starting job, even though Saban wasn't happy at a 52-3 win against USC. I think they're going to start off with that rotational, but they're going to put Buckner in under center. But I think long term, I think Milroe is going to be the guy for this year.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I liked him a little more than you did last year.
Yeah, I did not like him.
I didn't think he was a polished quarterback by any stretch, but I saw flashes of a kid that can make plays. I saw athletic ability that other kids don't have. I saw some instincts that a quarterback needs to succeed at that level. Now, did I see, like Bryce Young as a freshman? No. He's got some developing to do, but bringing in other guys, I don't think is something that just means that they're not going to play Milroe. I think it's that they want to push him and they want to make sure that he is doing everything he's supposed to do, because if not, they're going to try somebody else. I don't think it's an indictment that he's not going to get a chance to be the starter.
Yeah. No, I the thing with Milroe though is I think you're gonna have to really retool that offense and go back to old school, back when Jacob Coker was there, and run the ball more. The big problem is there's no Derrick Henry on this roster.
No,
I mean that the running back situation. I mean it's good, but you don't have a generational talent in Derrick Henry, and the defense I don't think is nearly as good as it was last year. I mean Dallas and Turner and their secondary has really got to step up. I mean, Malachi Moore and Kool-Aid McKinstry really got to show who they are.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Downs is going to start probably as a freshman. There's no Will Anderson on this team anymore. I mean, I'm sorry. There's not. There's no Jahmyr Gibbs. There's no Derrick Henry. There's no Bryce Young. They've still got a ton of talent. There's still a lot of 5-star players. There's still a lot of generational very good players, but there's no generational guy that just sticks out as one of the best players in the country, and that's not that's unique for Alabama. And we go right down the road to the team that's actually unseeded Alabama in the SEC, and that's Georgia. I mean, they've won the last 2 national championships. They did it with Stetson Bennett at quarterback, which is even bigger. And it's a bigger deal when you can win 2 titles with Stetson Bennett. I mean, Stetson Bennett did his thing, but he's not Bryce Young. And now they're going to have to choose between 3 guys. And I think this race is still going on. You've got the redshirt junior Carson Beck. You've got Brock Vandergriff. You've got Gunnar Stockton. James, who's your guy here?
I think you're going to see Carson Beck starting off the job. I mean, the funny thing is everybody kind of looks at this situation of they kept talking about Stetson Bennett being the walk-on starting. Well, I mean, Carson Beck was a high 4-star kid coming out of high school. It's not like this guy was like a paraplegic dropping back and playing in the Special Olympics games. I mean, he's a really good quarterback and he's got years of experience on this system. I mean, I think you're going to see them take a very measured approach. Carson Beck's going to start the year, and I don't think they want to announce it. I mean, heck, a little known fact at SEC Media Days when they did the preseason picks, the teams have got to put in who they recommend at each position. Neither Alabama or Georgia put a quarterback in for preseason selection.
Yeah,
that's how much they're keeping this quiet for fear that Vandergriff transfers, Ty Simpson transfers. I mean, they're going down. I mean, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. We don't know who's starting until maybe right before kickoff.
I'm not sure if they know who's starting. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think they have an idea of who they may want to put out there first, but I think they're going to let these guys play. I mean, we saw this last year, with Michigan. And gosh, I hate talking about them, but, they had J.J. McCarthy. They had McNamara, and they had one guy start one game, and then they had the next guy start that game. I'm not saying that Bama or Georgia is going to do that, but I do think that they're going to play several of these guys and see who works. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you look at Alabama kicking off the season against Middle Tennessee State at home. I mean, Middle Tennessee is a solid program, and Georgia's got UT Martin. It's not like they're coming off the boat with game beaters. I mean, you're gonna see multiple quarterbacks in those games to get some action, to see, get live fire, because practice only tells you so much. You can only scrimmage so much and tell you about a player, because there's so many times we've seen a player in games just accelerate through the system.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And we've talked about these schools, and Alabama, Georgia, they're in the hunt every single year, fighting for the national championship. And there's another school that's not in the SEC that does that. They reside in the banks of the Olentangy River in Columbus, Ohio, and that is the Ohio State Buckeyes. And they, for the first time in a long time, do not have a guy who is slated to be the starter. Now, I think we all would probably say that Kyle McCord has the heads up, that head up on the competition, because Devin Brown was injured in the spring. But, there's still a battle, I think. I think they're still going to take a look at both these guys, and Devin Brown and Kyle McCord might both get some playing time at the start of the year as well in Columbus. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I still think McCord's going to really pull away with this, partially because of his relationship. I mean, he's got such a relationship with Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, they have just, since they played high school football together, I think he's going to have a leg up, and it gives Devin Brown some time to develop too as a player. And I mean, it's not like he's not going to get snaps, because, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock the last 5 years, Ohio State puts up some points and puts teams away. I mean, Devin Brown's going to see some action, so we're going to figure it out. But I think long-term McCord's their guy.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that because Devin Brown was injured, and because Kyle was kind of, the heir apparent, but he didn't blow me away in the spring game.
No,
I didn't look down there and be like, oh, this guy is ready to go. Like, I just didn't get that. He didn't look horrible. He wasn't miserable out there, and he certainly got better as the day went on. But I think because of the lack of just blowing everybody away, I think that's why Devin Brown is still going to be involved in this. And that to me is why it's still going to be a battle going through the fall.
Remember, Justin Fields didn't look exactly stellar in the spring game too, his first time. I mean, this receiving core is unreal. I mean, you lose JSN, and you're still the number one receiving core in the country.
Yeah, and think about the last 2 years. You lost Chris Olave. You lost Garrett Wilson, who was the NFL Rookie of the Year. You lost Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was the number 11 pick overall, to Seattle, and you still are stacked at that position.
What about Jamison Williams?
Yeah, we didn't even talk about him, but he was on the Buckeyes for 3 years.
Yeah.
So there's no shortage of talent at receiver again. So whoever starts there should be in pretty good shape throwing the football. But let's talk about Matt Rule and what he's got going on at Nebraska. They've got to get something going here. The Nebraska program has not been good. Obviously, the Scott Frost experiment was not well received by anyone. And now they're going to roll into the season. And let's be honest, they're going to roll in the season with Jeff Sims at quarterback, the transfer from Georgia Tech. I like him as an athlete.
Yeah.
But do I see him, leading Nebraska to 9 wins? I don't. What do you think about him? And what do you think about the competition at Nebraska as a whole?
Well, I think when Casey Thompson's shoulder went sideways, I think they got nervous, and they just didn't want to have Purdy be the guy. I mean, do I think Sims is going to beat up Purdy for the starting job? Yeah. But I mean, I think Nebraska's got a ways to go. I mean, was a 5-star product. I mean, originally supposed to go to Florida State. Georgia Tech nailed it, got him to switch right at the last moment. He's a really good kid, a good prospect. There's not much talent around him at Nebraska to really take that next step. I mean, in my opinion, if Nebraska makes a bowl game this year, I mean that should be a win because they haven't been to one in some time.
I agree. I think if he can win 6 or 7 games, that's going to be a pretty stellar job. Now, this guy's done it before.
Yeah.
He won at Temple, for God's sakes. He turned around a disaster of a situation at Baylor and won 11 games. So this guy has been proven to do it, but a lot of people have been successful at other places and then came to Nebraska and couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trophies sitting over there getting dust on them. And that's a lot of pressure. And, it's not the easiest place to recruit. So we'll see how that goes. But, another school that I want to hit on a little bit is a school where, they're a guy that was in this race not too long ago, transferred out and is probably going to be the starter elsewhere. And that's, Luke Altmaier. What you've got left at Ole Miss is Jackson Dart, who played last year and was okay at times, not great at times. And then you got Spencer Sanders. And then you've got Walker Howard, who's a redshirt freshman transfer. Do you think Jackson Dart is the guy, or do you think they're going to have this be a competition?
I think it's a competition, but I think Jackson Dart's the guy. I mean, granted, it doesn't hurt when you've got a game-changing running back in their system, which is weird that you see a Lane Kiffin offense really slow it down and be more run control. But I mean, I think you're going to see better development out of the receiving core. If Dart does lose it, I think they're going to go to Spencer Sanders. But I mean, look at his time at Oklahoma State. You never knew what the hell you were going to get with that guy. I mean,
no.
It's amazing how he had 4 years there, and that was like the most head-scratching 4 years I've ever seen in my life. He was either really good or freaking awful.
There were some ups and there were some downs. There's no doubt about it. And I felt like, the year before he was better than he was last year. And I don't know if that's just had something to do with what he had around him. I don't know if that's a product of, him just not getting better. I don't know. But, sometimes a change of scenery is good for these guys. And I don't know if this will be a good change for him. If he's sitting on the bench, it won't be.
Yeah.
But I do think he's got the experience to come in and not be afraid to compete for this. So I think that's something to watch. And it's going to be an interesting battle because they're it's not like they won the SEC West with Jackson Dart. He struggled at times.
Oh yeah, very much so.
And especially in big games, they had an opportunity to win some of these games. The end result wasn't really what they wanted to see. So that's why I think that the competition may still be opened in that regard. And obviously, we've got a little bit of a battle going on right here. I think in Knoxville, Joe Milton is definitely going to start the season, but do not doubt it. If he struggles at all, I don't think they'll hesitate to put the kid in. And obviously I'm talking about Nico, our good friend George Malalulu's nephew. I think he'll see the field and he's going to be the number 2. He already is. And, that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy in Joe Milton who hasn't really been a full-time starter since he was at Michigan.
Yeah,
what do you think about these guys?
I mean, Joe Milton, 100%. He has got a huge arm. Huge. I mean, it is ridiculous how big an arm, but I mean, he has had a very sketchy college career. And you and I both know the second there's even the least glimpse of problems, the amount of pressure to put Nico on the field is going to be immense just based off his recruitment. What Heupel does, that's a $6 million question. I mean, you lose Hyatt, you lose Cedric Tillman at receiver. I mean, they don't have the depth they once did, and now you're going to be losing some scholarships going into the future. I mean, who knows what this is going to look like long term? But Nico there's something they want to get people excited about, and Nico can be that provider too. I just don't think he's going to do it right away.
No, and I was pretty impressed with the way that Milton came in, when Hendon Hooker went down.
Yeah.
That was a big deal, considering all of the success that Hooker had. I mean, let's not forget, Joe Milton was the starter at the 2 years ago when they were both here. Hooker was actually here before Milton was, and Milton still won the job and started the season. He got injured. I believe it was in the Pittsburgh game. They went to Hendon Hooker and never went back. So, I thought maybe confidence could have been shaken. I thought he could have, lost a little bit of his edge. But when Hooker tore his ACL, Milton stepped up and actually played pretty well, considering that South Carolina game was a disaster. And then, looked really damn good against Vanderbilt. And then obviously won the game in the Orange Bowl against Clemson, which is no small feat. So I feel like they're going to let him be the guy to start the season. And I feel like unless there's something go horribly wrong, he'll be the starter down there. Don't you think?
Yeah.
So we got another UT that has a little bit of a battle going on as well, and that's over in Austin at Texas. Now they have two of the highest rated quarterbacks ever recruited on the same team. Right there within a year or two of each other as far as eligibility goes, and that's Quinn Ewers, who started his career at Ohio State, took 3 snaps, took the money and ran to Texas. And I'm just going to be honest. I nothing against the kid. I'm not, obviously I'm a Buckeye homer, but I don't hate the guy because he left and went to Texas. I just didn't really like what I saw last year during multiple games. What did you think about him overall? And do you think if he struggles, they pull the plug on him and go to the Manning kid?
See, I'm not even sure they go to Manning. I think they could go to Malik Murphy because he looked the best coming out of spring. I mean, they're going to start off with Ewers, obviously. But, I mean, there were many times where Quinn Ewers, I mean, he got a little lazy with his mechanics. Yeah. And this isn't freaking high school anymore. And I think he's kind of grown up. I've heard he's chopped off the mullet and has taken more of a business-like approach this year. But, man, I've heard the same song and dance out of Austin before, and I don't know what to expect. I mean, if they do let him, I mean, because if yours does get pulled at some point, I mean, I gotta think it's Malik Murphy that gets the next nod, and they're gonna sit on Arch Manning as long as they can. But then now you've created a whole new situation going into 2024.
Yeah, and then does somebody transfer? I mean, these kids aren't just going to sit and wait anymore.
No.
That's not how it works. But everybody wants to get on the field and prove what they can do. And somebody who was on the field quite a bit is going to join us now. I'm going to go ahead and pop on our guest. Hey, Cedric, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Hey, wonderful. We got Cedric Houston joining us right now. Thank you so much for coming on the program today. We were just talking a little bit about fall camp getting started, and wanted to take you back when everything went down and you came here to Knoxville and got on the field. What was that like? What was the recruiting process like for you? And what was it like for you when you first came to town and started playing for the Vols here in Knoxville Center?
The recruiting process went pretty good. Arkansas recruited me pretty hard. But I came in with Jabari Davis, Derek Tinsley, Keldrick Williams. It was a few of us that came in. We didn't know what to expect coming into camp, coming from high school. None of us was in pretty good shape coming out of high school, didn't get to college. But we figured it out pretty quick. We had to get in some shape pretty fast.
No doubt.
Who was the person that recruited you during that process, and why did you pick UT over Arkansas? Because it was funny. I was telling Nate about this. It's like back in the early days of like Rivals and Scout, I remember watching your recruitment like it was yesterday. Like, what was the deciding factor of why you went to UT over Arkansas? Because I think didn't Nebraska offer you two as well with Coach Solich?
Yes, Nebraska. Well, it's a funny story. Nebraska offered me as free safety.
Oh wow!
So
I didn't know that.
They wanted me to play free safety. And my mom was like, "No, you're not going there. you're not playing safety or defense." So they were out of the picture then. Steve Caldwell recruited me. Arkansas, Ole Miss. I had a good chance of going to Ole Miss with Coach Cutler and Coach Roper. They recruited me pretty heavy. And Michigan State.
So that would have been during Saban when he was at State, or was that Bobby Williams?
That was Bobby Williams.
Bobby Williams.
Yep.
Gotcha. So what was it like, obviously going to Clarendon and then coming here to Knoxville and showing up where they actually had, several different running backs here. What was that like when camp first opened up for you, Cedric? And what did you think, about the process of getting acclimated to playing college football at one of the biggest programs in all of the nation?
Well, myself, Jabari, and Derek, we all thought we had a good chance of starting once we got to Tennessee. And we got there and we get to the first scrimmage, we see Travis Stevens. We was like, well, which one of us is going to be second, third, and fourth string? So we figured that out pretty quick that we weren't going to be starting that first year.
Yeah, there's no doubt. They this Tennessee has had some of the greatest running backs of any schools that I've ever seen. And growing up here in Knoxville like I did, I started off watching Reggie Cobb and Tony Thompson, and then watched it, go into Jamal Lewis and Travis Henry, Travis Stevens. And then it just I was like, surely there's going to be a drop off. And there wasn't, because then we got the kid out of Arkansas. What did it mean to you to be, another one of these unbelievable great running backs at the University of Tennessee? And what do you look back at as your time here? What kind of stuck out at you?
Man, I knew through the recruiting process that Tennessee had a great tradition of running backs. I was actually a big-time Arkansas fan, so I seen Travis Henry rip up Arkansas that one year. I was like, dang, they got some pretty good running backs at Tennessee. And probably since then, I've been a big-time Tennessee Vols fan and just followed the running backs all the way back to Charlie Garner, Jay
Graham.
Yeah, Jay Graham. Man,
Aaron Hayden, James
Hayden.
Littleman, Stewart.
I was just gonna say Stewart.
Yeah, pretty much everybody. And the fullbacks at Tennessee could have easily been tailbacks. I played with Troy Fleming. Hell, he was a great tailback in high school. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, Sean Bryson, Troy Fleming, some of those guys, they could have easily taken the load and carried the ball.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Now, you came from Clarendon, Arkansas, and, Clarendon's not the biggest of towns. And you're going from there to going to SEC country. When did you realize your first day at camp, first practice, I'm not in Clarendon anymore? And things got a little faster and people hit a little harder.
Well, it didn't take me long because, like you said, Clarendon's a small town, about 2,000 people, the whole town. So it's very small. And I kind of figured that I can play. I played in the All-Star game in Dallas. I think it was the first time they started the Army All-American game. And
yeah.
I did pretty good in that. And actually, myself and Kevin Simon were roommates. And that's when we decided we were going to Tennessee. At the time, we didn't know where we were going. And we were roommates at that game. And we said we were both going to go to Tennessee. A lot of people didn't know this story. That's when we decided we were going to Tennessee.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. He was from De La Salle out in California, if I remember correct, and played in that game as well. So, I mean, it was fun to watch you, Cedric. I mean, I remember those days, and I remember that game against Texas A&M and the bowl game where you guys ran all over them. just talk to us about a little bit about the offensive lines that you guys had there, and some of the dudes that did the blocking for you when you were the running back at Tennessee.
Oh man, where do I start? Scott Wells, Anthony Herrera, Will Offenhusel, Aaron Sears, Robert Smith, Eric, Albert Tahina, Eric Young. Man, I could probably name them all from my sophomore year. Jason Resford. I mean, I could probably name them all from my sophomore year. So
nice. Now you're coaching in you're back in your hometown. You must have had a ton of mentors or people that gave you great advice during the process, either coaches, fellow players. Who were those people, and what are those things that you've taken to help build the culture and team in Clarendon today?
Well, actually, my high school coach, Bobby Hart, he was pretty good during the process. A lot of people thought he was the one that steered me to going to Tennessee, so he got a lot of backlash after that. And he was like, man, I'm going to have to get out of Clarendon because these people are crazy. But I mean, Bobby Hart did a great job recruiting process. And actually that next year he coached Augusta, and James Turner from Augusta ended up coming to Tennessee. So it was a pretty good process.
And what made you want to go back and get into coaching, Cedric? I know there's a lot of players that want to do it, and then there's some that don't. What kind of made you feel like you wanted to go back and get back involved with the game and coach kids?
I knew I was eventually going to get back into coaching. I just didn't know when I was going to start doing it. But I just always wanted to teach the youth. Like I tell people, I can teach a running back something I learned in college or the pros. I can teach him in high school that I didn't know. So, I mean, that'd be a great advantage for any kid or any running back. So,
no doubt.
Now I saw that one story talking about going back to the time when you were at the combine and when you found out about your hyperthyroid condition. You know, how much, I mean, obviously it affected from your draft status, but what the steps did you take after you found out about that and once you were in the NFL to help you with that issue too as well?
Well, my senior year, I was in the best shape of my life, but I always got tired pretty quick after runs and stuff. And I didn't know what it was. I just thought I was probably working out too much or like doing too much that I just need to rest up. And at the combine, I think the Tennessee Titans found out about my thyroid condition first. And I actually didn't know what a thyroid condition was or anything. But once that happened, my age, if I probably had a second, third round grade, probably going to end up going to the Cowboys probably. So at a second, third round grade, my agent was like, well, I really don't know where you're going to get drafted anymore if you get drafted. And draft second day in the draft, Herm Edwards called and he told me he was I guess he get one pick and I was his pick. So I felt pretty special about that. So
see, that would have been the year that the Cowboys drafted Marion Barber III.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I was right there at that area.
Yeah.
Well, you went through it and decided, to go to Tennessee and, told us a little bit about your recruiting process, but now, you see how things have changed and how, kids get recruited earlier and earlier. It seems every year there's more and more coverage of it. What do you think is the biggest difference between what kids go through now and what you went through back when you were trying to pick a school?
Man, this is social media, and I'm glad social media wasn't around when I was at Tennessee and when we were coming up. So
I wish it wasn't around.
No, yeah, we kind of dodged that bullet. Me and the guys that I came up with at Tennessee. But now, man, I mean, you don't have to. The coaches don't have to do the recruiting for you much. Your film is everywhere. You got the huddle. You can get in contact with coaches like that easy. So I mean, it's pretty easy to recruit now or get yourself out there to get seen.
So one second.
Yeah, I mean, there's no more of that, having to cut up tape or dub VHS. Now they got everything online for you. It certainly makes it easier, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot easier nowadays.
Sorry about that when I had the hacks. Who do you got on your roster right now at Clarendon that you think can play at the next level?
We got a quarterback, probably 3-star quarterback now. We got a wideout named Jackson Hampton. He hadn't played football much, probably by his 3rd year playing football. This kid's an athlete. He can run, jump. He's probably a 4-star basketball player, but he's pretty good at football. And 2 years ago, we sent, I know you guys are familiar with this name, Quincy McAdoo, to the Razorbacks.
Oh, yeah.
Freshman All-American. He's actually from here in Clarendon, and this kid's definitely a ball player.
I didn't know that. I didn't know he was from there. That's crazy.
Yeah. He played at Clarendon High School.
That's nuts. A school that small to be sending this many kids out into the big time, that's saying something. And it's about that time to get started. The fall camp's about to kick off. I mean, there, as me and you talked about the other day, there's not long before the season gets going. You still get excited when the grass starts getting cut and you're getting ready to put the pads on.
Oh yes, at the high school level and definitely at the college level, I'm ready to see my Clarendon Lions play and then my Tennessee Vols get it going.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that because there were some years that didn't go the way that Vol fans wanted it to. After Coach Fulmer was replaced, and after several, we won't get into every coach that they went through, but it looks like they may have found that guy. What do you think about what Coach Heupel's done, in his first couple of years, and where do you see this program going?
Man, Coach Heupel's done a great job. We always had defensive-minded head coaches, and we finally got an offensive-minded guy. And actually, people gonna hate me for this, but hell, I like when Lane was at Tennessee. So, because he was definitely gonna get the program turned around. But I like Coach Heupel. This offense that he's running, we're gonna score points. So, hell, if you can't score 50, you're probably gonna lose the game against us. we're gonna score 50 on anybody. So,
there's no doubt.
So do you still get chills when you see the opening of the tee to come out on the field? Remembering the first time you went out on the field that way?
I do. I tell everybody, if you had experience running through the tee, there's nothing like it. Just being in the stadium, hell, being on campus during the game, you don't even have to go to the game. It's electric. It's different. There's nothing like it.
No, and what was that like? Going from Clarendon to Tennessee and having 100,000 people. What was that like the first time that you played in Neyland Stadium?
It's pretty crazy. It's probably going from Clarendon 400 or 500 people at a game to 110,000. So that's a pretty big jump for me. Man, I just took it all in stride and just enjoyed my time there at Tennessee.
I always think about it like the old movie The Program, when you saw Omar Epps make his first run out in the field and how he's just kind of looking around like he's like not a deer in headlights, but just like, holy crap, like this is just amazing going through that whole experience.
Yeah, actually, my aunt and my mom, we drove up from Clarendon to Knoxville, and we walk into the complex. First two people we see is my mom see John Henderson. She was like, well, what? She was like, what the hell is that? I said, Mom, I think that's John Henderson. And then we go to the dorm. We see Jabari Davis.
Oh my
full beard, 240 pounds.
Freshman.
She was like, son, is that Jabari? I was like, yes, ma'am. She was like, damn. She's like, you sure you want to go here? I was like, yeah, I'll be all right, Mom.
No, hey, and there's these kids, some of them are just going to be stepping on campus for the first time, and you've been through this, you've been coaching kids now. What would you tell kids, that are being recruited? What advice would you give them as they try and, pick a school, and also after they've picked one, once they first get on campus, to get themselves ready to play?
Man, just enjoy the recruiting process. I know a lot of kids don't enjoy it. Just enjoy the recruiting process and actually go to a school that fits you. I mean, hell, if you got Florida recruiting you in Florida Atlantic and Florida Atlantic fits what you do better, go there.
Yeah.
Hell, it's all D1 football. So, and the way this portal set up, hell, if you don't like it, you can leave. But
Yeah.
I'm not too crazy about this portal. A lot of kids are getting lost in the portal, and the portal is actually killing a lot of these high school kids getting looked at.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Yeah. We've talked about that
it's
a lot.
killing that. And I like that part of it.
Well, there's so many kids in the portal every year, and some of these coaches, I feel like they want to go after a kid that they know has played at D1 level. They got some D1 tape on him, and they may, try and pull somebody out that they can plug and play with instead of develop players. What do you think some of these high school kids have to do now? Go to junior college, go to prep school. What do you think these kids have to do if maybe they don't get a scholarship right away, but they still want to play?
I'm not sure, but it is tough because if I was a coach, I would look into the portal before I looked at a high school kid.
Yeah.
If I got a kid that played at Auburn, that played a little bit, didn't play much, opposed to a high school kid, I'm probably taking the kid at Auburn.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a tough thing. I mean, I'm not sure what they can do about it or what they need to do about it, but I'm not sure about it.
Well, I mean, because you look at it, I mean, the one downside about the portal is, you can look at all the film you want and know what he is as a player, but what he is as a person could affect the locker room, and you spend a lot more time in the locker room in practice than you do in 3 hours in a game. And I think that's the one thing right now that the portal is really struggling with. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Cedric?
Yeah, I mean, really depends on the coach and the players and the coaches you have around. I mean, if you have the right leaders there leading your team as far as coaches and players, you pretty much bring in anybody, and if they follow suit and just get with the plan like everybody else, I mean, you can probably get it turned around.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's a whole new world, Cedric, with college football, and I'm glad that kids don't have to sit out anymore.
Yeah.
Because if a coach sells you a bill of goods and then you get to campus and the coach leaves, I feel like you should be able to go somewhere else and not have to sit out a year. So I was glad in that regard, but it's just kind of like there's no regulation at all with this portal, and kids can transfer as many times as they want, it seems like, and I feel like that's kind of where it's getting jarbled up. But I certainly do like the kids to have the ability to leave if the coach that recruited them is gone, or they're not getting an opportunity to play. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think the portal is what I've seen so far with the portal. Portal is only good for guys that's played and was pretty good while they were playing at another school. Yeah. Those are the guys that get picked up. The other guys are that 2,000 that's still left in the portal. So
yeah,
that's tough.
No doubt.
So who do you kick off the season with this year?
We play Helena, West Helena. It's a 4A school. We're a 2A school. Pretty athletic school. We beat them last year. But they'll be a pretty good team.
When's that game?
That is, not sure off the top of my head, but that's our week 0 game. Yeah,
I think we got a couple weeks left. But Cedric, we'll be watching and we'll be cheering for you. And man, we wish you the best of luck. We love watching you play, and you play for both my teams, Tennessee and the Jets. So I loved watching you play, man. And you're always one of my favorite dudes out there. And I really like seeing you give back and helping these young kids now. I know they look up to you, and I know that they really appreciate you coming and helping them out. So best of luck to you on the season. And thank you so much for stopping by and talking with us a little bit today. I really appreciate you giving us some of your time.
Hey, watch the Jets this year, man. We got somebody over there to throw the ball around.
Hey, man, it's been a long time.
It's going to be all right. in New York this year.
What, you don't believe in Zach Wilson, Cedric? Is that what you're telling me?
I like Zach, but he's no Aaron Rodgers. So.
No. And there was times last year, especially when Breece Hall was toting the rock. You know, Breece is good, and Garrett Wilson, you know, the young kid out of Ohio State, you know, he proved to be a really good wide receiver. And you got Corey Davis. You know, if they just had somebody to throw the ball, I feel like they would have been playoff bound last year.
Yeah, and man, that conference is so tough. Hell, it'd be tough to get fourth in there. You got Buffalo, Miami, New England will be good, and man, that's gonna be a tough conference. So if they do good in conference, I mean, they probably going to come out a wild card or something. I think Buffalo is probably gonna win that conference.
Sauce Gardner too. I mean, man, I knew he was going to be good. I didn't think he was going to be that good in the pros. I mean, man, if he keeps going at this exponential rate, there's no telling how good he could be as a lockdown.
Yeah, man, cornerback is a lot about confidence. I played with Darrell Reeves and Ty Law was there with me, so those guys had the ultimate confidence of what they were doing, man. They were both of them weren't the most athletic or fastest, but they had confidence in what they were doing.
I forgot you were at Revis Island. Yeah, that's when you were there.
Yeah.
There was some ballers on that team, but they found it, man. They've got a GM is the first thing. You know, Joe Douglas has the ability to pick guys, and that's, you know, that's why they're all out there playing. Jermaine Johnson should step up in year 2, and now they got a quarterback, so we should be all right.
Yeah, they should be all right, but they're in a tough conference, man.
No doubt. There's going to be a game every week, but we'll be watching Clarendon, and we'll be cheering for you, Cedric. And I hope you have a good time this year, and I hope you guys have a lot of success on the field.
I appreciate it. Go Vols.
All right, go Vols. We'll talk to you again soon, man. And thank you again for joining us and taking some time on your Sunday.
Thank you,
Coach.
All right, see you, Coach. All right, that was the former running back from Tennessee and the New York Jets, Cedric Houston, from Clarendon High School in Arkansas. You know, you mentioned that video, and I watched that too. And I gotta be honest with everybody. I teared up a little bit. You know, this is a guy that did not have to go. He does not have to go out and coach football. You know. At the high school level, he could go and do whatever he wants. He's got connections all over from playing at UT and playing in the NFL, but he chose to go back home and help some of these kids that need help. And like he said, to teach them things that he learned at playing in an SC school and playing for Coach Herman Edwards at the New York Jets. He chose to go back and use some of the things that he learned to help these kids and to teach them what he's been taught. And to me, that shows you what kind of a person Cedric Houston is.
Well, I mean, I remember when he, on that video, and I should have asked the question about when he was told in 8th grade, I could see you playing in the NFL one day. And I mean, the guy was so humble as an 8th grade. He's like, he didn't even know anything about like the NFL. He just loved playing the game itself. And having that ability of, you know, talking to those guys, you know, not only did he play Friday nights, he played on Saturdays and Sundays. And, you know, taking the skills he's learned and making those people believe in a very small community that, hey, you can play at the next level. You can be good. You know, you think your ceiling's here, man, your ceiling's way up here. And having somebody believe in those people does a world of good.
Well, and as he mentioned, you know, it's a small school that he's at, but they've sent kids to Tennessee, to Arkansas, you know, to the NFL. And I think seeing him come back gives these kids hope and gives them some direction. And, you know, maybe they don't make it to D1. Maybe they don't play in the NFL. But if it helps them learn how to, you know, work with others, it teaches them the value of hard work. You know, he can help these kids become good men and good, you know, good pillars of our society. And that to me, and leaders of our society, which to me is more important than anything he can teach them on the football field. So really cool to talk to Cedric today. I was really excited to have him on the show. I always liked him and always respected him as a player and as a person.
Absolutely.
Really enjoyed that, James. I appreciate you coming on and taking the time out today. I know you've been traveling and going back and forth, so I appreciate you doing it. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We're going to get out of here, but we're going to definitely be back in the fold here. We're going to rebrand our show and get a whole bunch of new stuff going as we move into 2023 college football season, which is crazy to think about. It's about to go.
Heck, we got predictions. We got fantasy football to put together. There's a whole lot to do in fall camp. So
yeah, man, we've got to pick our winners, pick our players to watch. We always do a show where we go out and we find the new incoming freshmen who we think will stand out. We're going to do that again and give everybody, some of these names that they don't know who we think are going to step on the field or at least see the field, as a true freshman and make an impact on their team. So we'll be doing our research and watching our tape and looking at all the film so we can help everybody get some information on some of these players they may not know.
You got it.
So we'll be back soon. Take a look at our YouTube channel, Man Coverage. We've got lots of videos up from all of our interviews, and we will have all the information up of when our next show will be. We don't have that schedule in front of us right now, but definitely check. Go to Twitter, man_coverage, and check out our YouTube channel, which has got all of our content from interviews and our full shows and all that stuff, as well as all of our predictions once we make them. So check it all out. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. And James, keep your chin up, buddy. I'll talk to you again real soon. Okay.
You got it. Giddy up. We'll talk. We'll see you next week.
All right, bud.